The Byzantine landscape was part and parcel of the human beings that lived in it. And the way they envisioned it was theophanic, and it had a divinity. And that is just about as far from our landscape as you can get. So their concept was is a very interesting concept to me because what they believed was you are inseparable from your surroundings. You're part of them. So the prince could not be separated from his castle, nor the peasant from his land. And we live in a culture where we are separate from everything, especially from the land. We see the land as a tool. It's something that we can use to live by, but we are not part of it. We are separate. Well, a follow-on idea of that, for me at least, is sometimes we grow up in a certain environment that we don't feel part of and can't and don't want to be. And we go searching for our own personal environment, something we really can identify with. And in that environment, we can really become who we are. All right. I don't want to romanticize this too much, but that's what I did with France. And I went the very first time, and I was I was in shock. But I I just had a wild hair that I wanted to do that, and I was a little Texas boy and 22 years old. Um, I went to Paris, not speaking French. I had some very basic ideas of what French was, but over at least 40 years of living in and around that culture and with people who only spoke French, I mutated. And I think I actually became more myself. So it wasn't a pretense, it wasn't me trying to be French. I was always, frankly, who I was, an American. But I did become a kind of hybrid French American person who, because I spoke French so much, and for 10 years it was almost exclusively in French, that I started to think differently. Well, now that I look back on that, and I'm not living in France, um, I feel like what happened was I slowly gravitated toward my real self. And I felt very at ease and comfortable in that society. And the French don't really accept you very well if your French is bad. So that's kind of one of the first things. You have to respect the language and you have to be good at it. And I just happened to be good at it. And I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was uh, something I learned about myself through living in France, that I actually could adopt another culture and another way of thinking and communicating that seemed quite natural. Um, so, one of the things that healed me physically, because I had been in a really bad accident when I was 12 and had a lot of injuries, I then developed some psychological problems just trying to hide my pain because it happened when I was 12 years old. Um, I started having migraines and I had bruxism and I had pains in my spine and um, there, there was a list of things. I eventually developed an ulcer. Um, well, by living in France, all those things were healed. And then when I left France, I was re injured. I'm not living in France now, and I'm living with uh, some pretty intense pain sometimes. It's um, it's a debate whether it's a sciatic pain or a piriformis syndrome. I don't really know, but it's always with me. In any case, I do think that not only do we not relate to nature very well in our culture, we certainly don't have a theophanic landscape. It's not a divine part of our life. And yet, if we do manage to find our place on this planet, and it may not be where you grow up, if we do find the right place, then we can become who we are. I think that's a magical thing. And I realize I'm outside of France. I'm probably always going to be struggling, but I do know that living in my native country is toxic for me. I just can't do that. I need to be in a Latin culture. And any Latin culture is good, but France seems to be the top of the top, as they say in French, top to top. Um, so I think it's good to think about not only where we feel most at home, and it can be anywhere on the globe, um, but is it divine? Is it really something God given? Is it really something theophanic? That is something I do believe we all need. We need this feeling of enchantment of wherever we are. And if it's in relation to nature, I do believe it's healing. I think that we all need more closeness to nature. We all need a good element of healing in our life. And I think that we ought to think about things like that.